learn for this month, we're going to focus on interface transactions. So I believe that interface transactions is not really something that's used very often by clients. And I think that the reason for that is potentially that people don't necessarily know quite how the functionality works. And so I wanted to take a moment to highlight that this month. So the agenda for today, I'm going to start with how to create an interface transaction, move into how you can track interface transactions, how you can add interface transactions to either a workflow or a scenario, and then how you can execute the transaction steps from the interface dashboard. And then we'll do a tip of the month. So how to create an interface. So for starters, in order to be able to create a new interface, you do need to be set up in TransIT as an administrator. So if that's not a position that you have, then you'll need to find out who at your organization is set up as an administrator. So the first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to select the org settings from the blue bar. Once you select org settings, it's going to take you to the settings page, which is going to give you the list of all the org setting options. So from this list, you're going to want to select interfaces. And once you select interfaces, it's going to bring you to the how to create an interface page. And so from this page, it's going to list all of the interface transactions that you have currently set up for your organization. So it may be that if we did your org settings a while ago, that these were all created for you already. But if you're needing to create a new interface transaction, you're going to want to click the add new icon that's in the top here. And once you click that icon, it's going to open the new interface window for you. So you're going to want to select the source vendor from the drop-down list. You'll want to select the destination vendor from the drop-down list. You'll want to select what that transaction is that's crossing. And then you'll want to give your interface a name. So in this example here, I just have Cerner ADT to 3M, but it can be whatever name is applicable for your site. So once you've created your interface, it is going to add that interface to your list of interfaces. And so something that's important to note from this page is if you look off to the scenarios column here, you can see that for our demo organization, it's got numbers listed in the scenarios column. And so this is letting me know that the interfaces here, so an AET A04, all scripts AET to GE, it's being used in all of these different scenarios. And so this is a link. So if I wanted to go into one of the scenarios to see where this interface is, I would be able to click this link here, similar to the way that you can click the number link when you're wanting to see where a task or a workflow is used inside a scenario. So this can just help you to track to make sure if you're going into testing and it's important to be testing a particular interface to see exactly what scenarios that interface is being tracked in. So if you are wanting to open it, I would recommend always using the holding down Control on your keyboard and then clicking the number of the scenario to open your scenario in a new browser. So once you've created your interface, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add your interface either to a workflow or a scenario. So you can go ahead and add them to scenarios individually, but my recommendation would be to first think about any of the workflows that you're going to need to have that interface in, and add it at the workflow level as opposed to adding it to the scenario level. The benefit to that, of course, is that it's much faster to just pull in the workflow to each spot that it's needed rather than having to individually add that interface to each of your different scenarios. So in this case, visit, comma, modify, bracket, discharge, nursing, rather than individually adding the same interface to multiple scenarios. If I add it to the workflow, then anytime I insert that workflow into a scenario, it's all automatically going to pull in all of the details. So it'll pull in the interface into my scenario with the workflow. So to add a interface to a workflow or to a scenario, it's actually going to be the exact same steps. So I've only included screenshots here for adding it to the workflow steps page because it is, like I said, the exact same steps to add it to a workflow as it is to a scenario. So you'll want to go into either your workflow or your scenario, and you'll want to right click on the step that you want to add that interface to. And once you do that, you're going to get your list of options open for you. So you're going to want to select the add interface option. As soon as you select that option, it's going to open the add interfaces window here. So you do have the availability to search for your interface. So if you want to search for the name of the interface, you also have your filters. If you wanted to, let's say, only search on ADT A03 or whatever the interface is, you can use your filter options to help shorten your list here. And when you want to select your interface, you're going to just select the checkbox there to give it a check. And so you could select multiple interfaces at the same time. But I'm just going to select one and click Save. And when you do that, it's going to add your interface to the interfaces column within your workflow or your scenario if you're inside your scenario. Once you do that, it does give you a details field, so a click to add details. And this is where you're going to want to provide information so that when the interface analyst is looking at the interface dashboard, it'll help them to identify who the patient is or who the order is or the MRN, the FIN, whatever information you find is appropriate. So if you add details to at the workflow level when you're adding your interface, and it'll also pull those details into your scenario. So I would recommend probably using, say, patient name and then putting in patient name in brackets so that it pulls it from the header. Things like that, that will just help save you time down the road as you're building out your scenarios. So then after you've created your interfaces, you've then added them to your workflows and added them to your scenarios, and then you've added your scenarios to a test round, you have the availability to use the interface dashboard. So everyone's quite familiar at this point with using the test dashboard, which obviously has all of your test steps. And just like the test dashboard, the interface is a different dashboard that's going to pull in just the information that is applicable for your interface analyst. So when I click that icon, it's going to open my interface testing dashboard here. And so you can see it looks similar to the test steps page when you open that. So it's going to have the name of the scenario, the day, the step, and the status of the step. So I'll come back to that in a second. The interface that you're looking to track, the status column there, you can see it's got that same green pass icon that you see on the steps page. It's got the details. So everything that's in that details column there are the things that I was saying you should add to your details field. So you can see in this example here, we've pulled in the patient name, the FIN, and the date of birth. We then have the interface notes column, the description, of what the step is that's happening, the application that it's in, and then there's the test note column. So coming back to the step status column, so the step status column has to do with the status of the test step. So these are the steps that are just associated to the interface itself on the interface dashboard, but they correspond with the steps that you're completing within your test steps. So as soon as the tester executes their steps, so whether that's the last step of registering a patient or the last step of entering an order, as soon as they've marked off that their step is passed, that's when you're going to get this pass option in the status column. So that lets the interface analyst know, okay, they can go and look to make sure that they received the transaction because the step has been passed on the tester's end, so they should be able to do their part. There's some other options that we see in this column here. So let's say the tester wasn't able to successfully execute their step and they instead had to mark it as an issue. When they log their issue, it's going to update this step status column to say issue. So that lets the interface analyst know, well, they're probably not going to see that transaction because the step wasn't successful on the tester's end. So it also gives you that information here. So in this case, this column says issue, and the note that's associated to it says that the MRN and the FIN didn't work. It doesn't have all the information there. The next option is flagged. So same idea, if the step was flagged, probably means that you're not going to see the appropriate information come across on your interface side of things. And so if you look in the test note column, it also pulls in some of the information that's associated to the note that the tester had logged. The last option that you see here is pending. So when the interface analyst sees that it says pending, what that's indicating is that the tester has not actually executed their step yet. So they shouldn't expect to see anything in the interface engine because the step has not been executed yet. So this page will automatically refresh just like the test dashboard page. So the interface analyst will just want to watch for this page to see whether or not they should be able to execute their steps. So just like the testing dashboard, as soon as the interface analyst was to pass one of their steps, it would have that fall off the view here. And just like with the test dashboard, if for some reason you don't see your interface crossing, you'd be able to right click and flag the step or however you need to know what you're seeing on the interface side of things. So before I go into the tip, does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like me to go back over in regards to interfaces?
I'd like to add something if you don't mind.
Of course.
With the people who are using this, you're going to get thousands of interface transactions there, and the expectation wouldn't be that the interface team would go through and look at every single one of the 1,000 transactions, just like they don't now. And so when they want to focus on what they would do, they would go in and look at the steps that were failed and confirm that they got those transactions, and only go in and look at the dashboard for things that people are specifically requesting. So, you know, if you are sending orders to some external system and they weren't received, then that's when the interface team would start engaging and using it. But I don't think that many interface people would actually go through transaction by transaction and validate everyone. But we still want to document those so that they can go back and see and mark off which ones were not received.
All right, thank you. So if there's no other questions or comments, then I will move on. So the tip of the month that we have for today is in regards to using the ability to save a URL for your issues page. So It's most commonly going to be used by probably your testing coordinator, but you have the ability to click the funnel icon. And when you do that, it's going to open the filter issues page. And from that page, you're able to select whatever options you're interested in looking at from an issue perspective. And so what we were, let me switch. What some people were encountering is that if it didn't show the entirety of their address in the address bar, it wasn't saving properly. And so if you're wanting to make sure that you see, if you want to make sure that it's saving properly, what you can do is you can right click in your address bar and select this option from the drop down list to always show full URLs. And so this actually applies when you're working in Chrome. That's where we've seen the issue. And so when you select that option, it'll allow you to save your filters successfully. So that was it for this month. So as usual, if you do have anything that you'd like to see shown for a future lunch and learn, please feel free to send us an email at support@vaguesolutionsInc.com, and we'd be happy to cover the topic that you're interested in one of our future lunch and learns. And then if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, you can subscribe to the newsletter at the link provided below, so on our website there. So if there's no questions or comments, then I will leave it there. And I hope that everybody has a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.